This Geekster Media production starts now.
Welcome to So You Want to Be a Geek, the podcast where we dive into the vibrant and ever-evolving world of geek culture. Whether you're a seasoned fan or just curious about what makes being a geek so special, join us as we explore everything from comics to movies, gaming, tech, sports, and everything in between. Each episode will bring you insights, interviews, and the latest news to fuel your passion and expand your horizon. So grab your favorite fandom and let's embark on this geeky adventure together. I'm Michael Canetti, and this is So You Want to Be a Geek. Hey geeks, guess what? We're back with another awesome episode of So You Want to Be a Geek, and this time we are getting really geeky about comics, CGC, variant covers, foil covers, you name it. If you like comics, this is the episode for you. I am here at Carnivore Comics with Sean McLoughlin talking all about comics, and he has not just his own business. So you invited me here, which is, hi, Sean. First of all,
hey,
how
are you?
Good, thanks. So you invited me here. Oh, we're going to go to the office. This is a command center. This is more than an office. This is fantastic. Like, I spent last night, I was probably on your website for a good 2 hours just perusing all the different books and variants you have there. Oh, I'm going to get in real trouble if I start ordering stuff. I was ready.
Well, we'll take care of you today because you made it out to the home base, okay? We'll get you some good ones.
Good,
okay?
I'm glad. So I met Sean at a local comic fair in Babylon hosted by a company called Hot Flips. And when I met Sean, of all the booths that were there, you had the best stuff by far. And some of the best prices too on your CGCs and other books. Super cool. And what I loved was they were also doing a Whatnot show while they're also doing a con. This is interesting. And now, I've come back now 3 or 4 times, and every single time that I go to this thing in Babylon, I keep stopping at your booth, and I keep chatting with you guys, and I kind of loved that it was sort of like a family thing. You were all there together, sort of doing stuff, which was fantastic. So my first real question is, how, you've got to, I can go a million different directions, but when you decided to go out on your own and do this, your own sort of company and have all this exclusive content, how did that come about?
So, first of all, once again, thanks a lot for interviewing me, and it's been great seeing you at that local Hot Flip show and stuff like that, and you've been really kind to my whole family too, so it's been a real pleasure.
Well, good, I'm glad. Well, thank you.
And how this started, it was all kind of by accident. So my business in comics, and when I started to realize I need to sell comic book geek related items, things, it started right after college when I started going to comic book conventions. Mm-hmm. And you're broke after college, for sure. And you have to pay for the trip. So we would go to Wizard World Philadelphia, and I was playing a game called Hero Clicks then.
Okay.
And my best friend and I, his name's Chris, and he runs a company now called Spectral Comics.
Okay, I've heard of Spectral. Yeah.
But so we used to run Scorpion Comics together. Mm-hmm. There's a whole history. So Carnivore Comics is technically my third comic book company.
Oh, no kidding.
So my first comic book company with my partner Chris, it was called NY Comics. Mm-hmm. We were CGC facilitators and specialists who specialized in CGC signings. We would work with Stan Lee, Joe Simon, Frank Frazetta, John Romita Sr. Wow. And that was that was probably 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe even more. That was around 2007, 2008. Wow. Yeah. So that's when I got out of college. I'm 40 now. So I've been in the grind for forever,
right,
in comics and just enjoying the culture, living on Long Island. I mean, we quickly discovered that a lot of the historical important things that happened in the early history of comics all happened in New York.
Oh yeah, because Marvel was founded in New York. So many comic book characters, especially like Marvel and DC, their archetype city is New York City, or their characters from that area, or Queens, like Peter Parker, and so on and so forth. So there's, as opposed to Hollywood, which is more movie, comics, the birthplace of comics is really in New York City area.
Absolutely. And so what we discovered is it was actually Michael Turner early on.
Oh, no.
And we discovered, wow, if Michael Turner colors in the eyes on a Spidey sketch cover and it colors them in red, and this book's a CGC signature series, we could sell it on eBay for a lot of money.
Wow.
And we're like, okay, so this is how we can pay for our trips to these cons.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're going to get cool comics. We're going to get them signed. And so now it comes into CGC, and there's a guy, Scott Talmadge, who was a New Yorker down in Florida with CGC. Right. And, he was there at the early CGC booths. And we earned his trust because we were doing so many submissions. They have a really cool thing called the CGC boards, which is still a great resource for any collector that I highly recommend visiting.
So CGC, for people who may not know, is basically sort of like the industry standard of grading of comics and cards and all different, collectible items and art and so on and so forth. And they've been around now. It's got to be almost 25 years.
I think coins and stamps are the real industry that started them, and then comics came off, as like a subset.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, really, it's unbiased third-party grading.
Right.
That's the idea. They have a team of graders, and if I'm doing a deal to you and I want to sell you a comic, I say it's mint. If the book has the grade, a lot of collectors accept that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
But that's not always the best advice, because the advice really is to buy the book.
Yeah.
Okay? Don't just look at the grade on a CGC label, everyone. Look at the book itself.
Oh yeah, because
use your eyes.
Because oftentimes people get books graded a lot of times for sentimental value, not necessarily for actual value. And I'm going to buy this thing for $100. It might even only be worth $50 on when it's graded.
Yeah. I also value the restoration checks and stuff like that too. Because back in the day, a lot of people would take, black covers and a Sharpie, and you'd cover over a little white spot, and they say it's mint. And, that's another thing that people want to look for when they're trying to buy important collectibles.
And the grading of comics, they go through it with a fine-tooth comb, like they're grading or evaluating a piece of artwork in history, all that kind of stuff. There's a lot to it, and it's when you send a book to get graded, it takes several weeks for it to come back, because they're really taking their time to figure out for each book, which is kind of cool.
That and the backlog, the whole country is doing this. The whole world.
They're all sending it to one place in Florida.
I know guys who literally just moved to Florida so they could just be closer to do this sort of thing. So what happened was we needed them to witness all of these different sketch covers all over the con.
Yeah.
So, sketch covers came around, and we'd hire artists to do covers. So CGC eventually said, you know what, we're going to make you guys witnesses for us.
Oh, that's cool.
Signature series witnesses. So I became one of the first, non-employee CGC witness.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
So that was a big deal. Now we had power. Now we could witness things, okay? So from about 2007 to 2010, they call those the Wild West days of the Signature Series program.
Because there are certain cons that they don't even go to, but they send certified reviewers to do that.
Yeah. So, now CGC wanted us to set up to help other people with Signature Series when they wouldn't go. And eventually in 2010, they created the CGC Facilitator. Okay, so that's important date to look at back in sort of the history of the Signature Series program, because there's a big meeting in a hotel in New York City with the heads of CGC and some of the most prominent CGC facilitators. We all talked about the program. And you know what? It was like turf too. The Stan Lee guy, maybe he wasn't too happy because I started promoting my own Stan Lee signings, or people would be like, oh, that's my artist. I run signings like that. I was kind of a younger guy then too. I didn't have a full big comic shop. So was I worthy of this?
Right.
That was the big question that so many guys were. But people loved me because I wasn't too big and I could give people proper customer service. You send me your Spider-Man 1, you expect me to answer your text message or email. So that's a lot of responsibility that came with doing that and becoming a facilitator.
Absolutely.
But it was great because then it got bigger. We set up things with Todd McFarlane, or, John Romita Sr. is always one of my favorite guys to do signings with.
Super cool.
Joe Simon, the creator of Captain America. Yeah. We would go to his apartment right in Manhattan there.
No kidding, wow.
Yeah, 56th Street. He was 98 years old. He's smoking cigars, telling me old stories about Captain America.
Wow.
I mean, it was so... And he was from Syosset, Long Island.
No kidding.
Right by here.
Oh,
so,
wow.
I mean, it was really cool. And I'm so grateful. I wouldn't have made any of the connections if it weren't for the CGC boards and New York Comics and getting to meet all these artists at these shows. And it just made me aware of like the history of comics. And I consider it to be America's art form because, the superhero is American.
It was born here, yeah. For sure.
It's so cool.
That's awesome. And any kind of offshoot of any kind of character, even anime and, all that stuff has roots in comics, and the birthplace of comics is New York, which I find so interesting that you even brought that up, which is so cool. Now, as this sort of evolved and you get, started to develop notoriety and you were getting these, hard to get artists and creators, had it become more of like a supply and demand thing, where people were like, oh, I want this book, yada, 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 or people would seek you out? How did that all work out?
So a lot of times we would promote our signings on the CGC boards, and CGC would help promote us as well. And then
pre-Instagram, everybody.
Yeah, like really, I was not even on Facebook.
Oh wow!
Not on Facebook, not on Instagram, and they would promote all of these signings because we would be like John Romita Sr. signing, or we would be doing a Stan Lee signing at a convention.
Wow!
And then, I mean, so many people get Amazing Spider-Man signed by Stan Lee. Yeah. If I'm right there going, hey, I can add on John Romita Sr. to your book for an extra $30 right here.
Dude, and it just, doubles the value of that book, if not more. Just
Herb Trimpe, Joe Sinnott, Jack Kirby's inker. They all lived upstate. I drive upstate. Terry Austin, the famous X-Men inker. Yeah. I mean, and like, it was great because they didn't always go to all of these shows. And I got to meet them. Shout out to a guy, Mike Carbonaro, Big Apple Con. Okay, he would get all these old school legends. He's really like a New York character as far as cons go. You'll see him at
There's some real New York guys at Comic-Con, especially New York Comic-Con for sure. There's some real New York guys. You're like, and if you know what I mean, you're like, well, that's a real New Yorker.
Right? And like just like my friends at Hot Flips, Jeff and Charles. Those are two great Long Island. Sure. And you know what? I don't do a lot of local shows. Because it's just like, I don't know, I'm older now, I'm a dad. Like, I don't like giving up weekend time or kid time, but I go for just their shows. I don't do any other local shows, but those guys have been in the industry making great bags and boards and like short boxes. And you don't know how many times I've gone to their warehouse where I've been in a pinch and been like, hey, I need this or this, and they're always there for me. So
no, they're
some good friends.
Yeah, and they also have a good following of people that just, because of their reputation, they want to, be at their events too, which is super nice. And I think that's really cool. Now, how did this sort of evolve into, having your own different companies and sort of springboarding that out into starting to get exclusive stuff?
Okay, perfect. So, I mean, one thing how I've always had businesses in comics is that I evolve with comics. You always see what trends are happening and, the way money flows and what collectors are looking into. So eventually we did enough signings with Stan Lee and we started to do Todd McFarlane signings. So I got to meet a gentleman named Matt from Todd's side of the world, from Arizona. And me and my partner, Chris, we would go there. And I'm talking like we had a lot of short boxes of comics for Todd.
Oh, yeah.
Todd was popular.
Oh, yeah.
Especially you do a Stan signing and then offer Todd. You are slammed.
Yeah,
so we have to go to Phoenix, Arizona with all these books to get them signed in his home base, which is really cool, by the way. Getting to go there and see him in his creative office.
I can't even imagine.
It's inspirational.
Is it really?
It's very inspirational, which is very cool. And, we kept getting books signed. So what happens when you do a lot of signature series books? You become an artist with how you make signature series books. You think about the color of the signature. You think about the placement of the signature.
Oh, yeah, because, often I see them put that, like, yellow tape to, like, give it a section.
Yeah, a window for extra protection and stuff like that. Or so the signature goes where it goes. So we would talk about that a lot. And we since there's so many books to sign, literally it would be me, Chris, Matt, and Todd in his office, just signing these books, looking at all these books for so long.
Wow.
Okay, so a few experiences of that happen. New York Comic Con comes around. we know we're going to be at New York Comic Con, and we decide we're going to start our own business to make some exclusives. It's called Scorpion Comics.
Okay.
So the three of us make Scorpion Comics. Matt's like, oh, like I'll have some good inside stuff with Todd that'll help us out. And we're like, we have our connections, and we start making some exclusives. And one of our popular ones, so from doing all these signings, I became great friends with an art rep named Dan Scott.
Okay.
So he runs Scott's Collectibles now, which represents some of the top tier European and international and American now artists.
Oh, wow.
And, there was an artist friend, Francesco Mattina, who was really hot at the time, and we got him to do a Venom cover.
Oh, wow.
We also had...
Like a sketch cover?
No,
just
like with Marvel Comics.
Oh, okay.
And we made it as a New York Comic Con exclusive.
Oh, wow, that's awesome.
So it was a big deal because we only had like a little 10 by 10 booth.
Right.
My booth, and then Scott's was right next to us, but they had Mattina there. So it was cool. So like people could buy the book from us, and then they could get Mattina to sign. And we're on the main floor of Comic Con. We're not in Artist Alley.
Oh, no kidding.
So then Matt, of course, he gets Todd to sit at our booth and hang out.
Wow.
So now Todd's at our booth doing a signing. People are buying Venom comics. We also created a Venom skyline.
Oh, really?
I don't know if you're aware of the Spider-Man skyline, but
No.
it was so important to CGC because what it was, it showed the whole skyline and it showed all the creators' names who had ever worked on Spider-Man in the skyline.
No kidding.
Which is great because now creators like it because it's recognition.
Yeah.
Fans love it because they can run around and get so many different people to sign one book.
Yeah.
So they already had one for Spider-Man, so we made one for Venom.
Oh, wow.
And that was another popular book. So Todd's at our booth watching a line, like they complained about our line, like blocking the Ford booth that year. It ran down the whole line.
Heaven forbid.
Yeah. And Todd's watching this. Then he talks to Mattina, and Mattina does an epic run on Spawn.
Wow.
And, Dan Scott and I are thrilled, and we were able to make a few other Spawn exclusives that became very famous because Spawn's got some of the most serious collectors out there than anyone.
Spawn has absolutely obsessed fans. It's a thing. It's crazy. Big time. I mean, I would say Spawn rivals Venom, and it's like, in a young character, because it's a relatively young, that has just a huge following. With
both of Todd's, both are Todd's creations,
absolutely.
too.
Yeah, which is great.
And I just heard some recent advice from Todd in regards to selling and making things that's so genius. I think that I just want to share. It's like, you want to make everything seem like a party that people want to go to, not just purchase your product.
Even his, DC figures line, when he starts talking about him and does like a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live, and people are just, there's hundreds,
I love him.
Hundreds and hundreds just watching, like, oh, he's got another Batmobile. This one lights up. And he talks about it with such excitement that it gets the fans even more ramped up because Todd McFarlane, to creators and comic book artists and fans alike, he's George Clooney in the comic book world. People love him. Like, they just obsessed with him.
To me, he's the new Stan Lee. He's the
so.
new showman.
Yeah.
He's the new ringleader.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there are other big guys out there like Jim Lee and stuff like that. But I mean, Todd gets it.
But Jim Lee, as great as he is, and such a big advocate for comics, he doesn't have. And listen, I love him. I've met him a handful of times. But Todd has this charm about him that people just want to tune into what he has to say.
Yeah.
And he feels like an everyday regular guy often.
He loves the sports.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, I tell you what, busting his chops about the Maguire ball and stuff like that. It's great because he still defends it, That's whatever.
Hilarious.
But yeah, so I mean, so that really got us on a path where we started making a lot of books of Scorpion. And Scorpion was a very popular company. It was around for about 5 years.
Okay.
And what I'm proud of is that I don't think that there's one former Scorpion Comics customer that can say oh, I didn't get my order. They just closed up shop. We didn't do that. We properly winded down the company. And at the time, I wanted to make a business where I had no business partners.
Okay.
And that was called Carnivore Comics.
Okay.
And so now Carnivore Comics is about 3 or 4 years old. I
started
that
basically the beginning of COVID.
Yeah,
right?
so I started all over again right after COVID. I started all over again, And, now I'm a stay-at-home dad. I take care of my 2 sons. They're 10 and 8 years old. So, and they're just little nerds. So now we make Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We make Transformers.
That's awesome.
We make great DC. I have amazing people I work with at DC.
Dude, and you've got some really nice DC covers. Oh boy. There's a couple right over there that are just fantastic.
I just have them hanging out,
Dude,
yeah.
They're just fantastic. And, but it speaks a lot to you as a person that people trust and they respect and they want to work with you because you're not doing this in a way, in my opinion anyway, where you're doing this for the love of comics and for the love of the fandom as well, I feel like. And people want to be a part of that,
So in comics, if your reputation is everything.
Oh, yeah.
If your reputation gets ruined, it's very hard to come back or do anything. So the best way to not ruin your reputation is to be honest.
Yeah.
And
Just be a
that's
good
it.
person.
And you know what? It's like there are people who get into the comic industry and just see it as money.
Oh, yeah.
And that'll lead them to make wrong decisions that'll ruin their reputation. I make books that don't succeed right away.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have books that'll sit around and I have to keep them around and I protect my market value too. And that's things, the thing about variants is they can change in price a lot too.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, they're really meant as sort of a fun artist spotlight.
Oftentimes a lot of variants, I look at them more as like an art piece sometimes.
Yeah.
It's a painting or it's an art and like that's why I use I either have CGC stuff or there's another company I use called Comic Capsules and
I like them.
They're fantastic. They're really nice guys. They've sent us some free stuff in the past and they sponsor the show a little bit too and they have UV protected and I just hang them up on the wall and they have just this beautiful little art piece because to me it's the look of it, the art, and I just think that's fantastic. I love that stuff. Yeah,
I love Comic Capsules. Shout out to them. I didn't pull the trigger on like a big thing with them because their cost was similar with CGC Grading. It's similar a little bit cheaper. I kind of like where I wished if it was just like that way cheaper price, I'd be all over it. But definitely get it for your special pieces or sketch covers that you want to hang up. Definitely.
So when you start getting into this whole variant cover, exclusive cover thing, do you have certain books that like the moment they hit, they just sell out like crazy or they go nuts and you're like,
So we used to. That still will happen. And there's definitely artists that attain that kind of following. I feel like the variant industry has slowed down a little bit
because it's
as
getting
well.
flooded.
I think that there's a lot of people who thought, that's easy money, and they jumped in, and they didn't realize the full scope of everything.
Now, have you noticed that there's more like a trend toward like foil covers versus just like a standard cover or like,
So I feel like some 90s gimmicks have come back, like foils and stuff, and publishers after COVID and the industry lines, because right during COVID, there was times where they're like, oh, we're not allowing exclusives for these titles. There's not enough paper.
Yeah.
And those were real challenges, or like bags and boards, Gerbers, we can't even make the correct mylights anymore. Boards. And, but then they're like, oh, well, we could do foils. However, I've had a lot of difficulties with foils, and I find a lot of times it darkens the artwork. So, like with my recent DC swimsuit covers, I chose to not print them in foil.
Okay,
because it was a little more inexpensive, and I felt you see the art better.
Yeah.
Do you really benefit from the foil that much? I'm not sure.
Does it scratch easier too? Like if
it could, and you can get fingerprints. It increases the price of production for sure. You're supposed to sell them for more money. I found that's one of the biggest things that changed. A few years ago, I could put up an exclusive for $30 and I could have sellouts.
Yeah.
Now people are more careful with their money. Probably because their grocery bills and gas bills are so much higher.
The economy has made, because, I have a friend who owns a tattoo parlor and he says, it's a, I have extra money to spend kind of an industry. And I think comics is kind of the same way. It was like, oh, if I have, I was at Midtown Comics the other day and, I was looking at covers of different things. Oh, this foil cover is $7.99, but the regular cover is $5.99. I don't need the foil. I'm going to get the $5.99 cover because I don't need to spend that extra $2 for something that's going to slip in a bag and a board and I'm never going to open it kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's a thing. It's definitely a real, very, okay, I'm not going to go buy. I used to go, I would go and I'd buy 25 comics at a clip. And now if I'm like, all right, maybe if I buy 5 or 6.
You just go to the store and walk around. You're like, oh, that's cool. That's cool. Boom, boom. Yeah. Me too, man.
Now it's like, all right, I'll get 5, maybe 6 at a time. I'm also very close with the owners of Fourth World Comics. And
great store on Long Island.
Fantastic.
Probably have the best. It's probably the best comic shop on Long Island.
Bar none. I mean, it's second to none on the island.
I don't go out there a lot, but I don't go to a lot of stores. Yeah. But it's like, that's the spot.
But they get fantastic signings. Scott Snyder lives around the corner from them. He's there with them all the time. They've got great exclusives. But even they were like, you see like an ebb and flow. Like people, they're not even getting as many, exclusive covers as they used to, or variants, because
they don't make as many.
Yeah. And they're just sitting there, they collect dust. And it's like, all right, I'm not going to sell this, $15 book because there's so few of them and people aren't going to spend that money.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great point to actually bring up Whatnot right now in our conversation, because that has been a new sales platform for me.
Oh, yeah.
That's been incredible.
Oh,
and it actually made me come out of my shell also a little bit, because I had to learn more about live sales.
Yeah.
Before I could set up a cool signing or just have a good book launch on my website. But now you have to interact.
Yeah.
You have people there live. So you could take an old book that people may have forgotten about.
And it comes up and they're like,
and you bring it up.
Wow.
And they have a chance and they're like, wow.
And they go crazy. And you know what it reminds me of a lot? And I've done a couple of Whatnot shows because I have a lot of Funko Pops and stuff that I've wanted to sell over time. So I don't need them anymore. It reminds me of the mid-90s QVC with Don West.
Yeah.
I love it. It's like limited edition.
Yeah, so I mean, right now, I'm going to give a shout out. My father works with me. This is a family business. Usually, a lot of times, right now during this interview, you can find Johnny Mac live on Whatnot.
Oh, no kidding.
With Carnivore exclusives. And I'll be right out here too, just running stuff in the office, whatever needs to get done.
That's awesome.
Or doing my own shows. I love hosting also, but what's great is he's able to be live and do his own shows and have his own customers. And believe it or not, there's a lot of customers who tell me, oh, I like when your dad hosts, and
that's hilarious.
Just because he has kind of a fun old school vibe with them, and
But and the thing about Whatnot is, because it is live and sales are 30 seconds long versus sitting on eBay for a week or whatever, you get that again, that sort of like, oh, I got to jump on this chance, and you could see books that go rapid fire and get a good value for them, or some people get amazing deals on books. I've got.
Yes.
I just bought one from I think KRS Comics, and they had
By the way, one of the owners, Chris Tabar, great friend of mine,
super nice dude.
We're actually in a fantasy football league.
Oh,
I
really?
have a fantasy football league with a few different comic shop guys.
I've been doing fantasy football forever, and I love it. It's my outlet of.
It's a good outlet, especially when the Jets and Giants suck so much. So we got to have something.
I'm a Jet fan. It's hard to watch, but it gives me the ability to root for other teams.
They would say Rex Ryan wants to come back.
Yes, he does.
I don't think I'd mind.
I wouldn't mind.
Would you mind? I wouldn't mind. It's not that crazy.
The funny thing about Rex Ryan, and this is totally off topic of comics, but it's okay, is he'll take the noise off of the players because he's such a personality.
Yeah.
He will, he would distract everybody from.
He would do great on Whatnot too.
Oh my God! Could you imagine just him selling merch on Whatnot? That would be hilarious.
One year I was at New York at the Whatnot booth doing a show, and they had Ric Flair in the pod next to me.
No kidding.
So during my show, you keep hearing "woo," he's doing his thing. It was great.
That's so funny. Yeah, but I just enjoy Whatnot. I like listening to hear people what they have to say. Now, what is the deal with the giveaways on Whatnot? Because that's a big thing.
Yeah. So I actually have more followers on Whatnot than I do any other platform.
No kidding.
Yeah, and it's almost the same size as my email list. So, wow. I mean, really, we're getting up near close to 20,000 followers, which is great. Considering when you go live, you hope to get like 20 people or more watching. So that way, you have, but we could get, I've had my largest room size, believe it or not, has been upwards of 500 people watching live at once.
That's amazing.
That just happened during New York Comic Con for me.
No kidding.
Image Comics and Todd McFarlane rated me after their interview.
Wow.
So all those viewers came to me live from my booth at New York Comic Con.
Wow.
And I had Lucio Perillo and Carla Cohen live at my booth.
Carla Cohen, I love her. She's my favorite artist, bar none. I guess I have maybe 4 different CGC covers that I had signed by her. Like, I love her. Power Girl. She's done a lot of stuff with Zenoscope, and I have a bunch of their covers. She's my hero. I love her.
You have a great artistic sense.
Oh, really?
Okay, because that's another thing that's a big part of the geekly debate and talking about art. So my wife is an art teacher. I'm formerly a lighting designer from theater and television, and covers really come down to the subjective taste of what is good art. So now AI art is here. And there's digital artists too who are phenomenal. Bjorn Berens, Ariel Diaz are some digital artists that I love. Yeah. But what was so great about Lucio, well, I really met Lucio first, and Carla came along. And believe me, when I met her, she was only 20 or 21 years old.
No kidding.
And she was Lucio's girlfriend and student.
Wow.
And Dan Scott, he introduced me to Lucio, and we got him, and he was doing Marvel covers, and I was actually one of the first people to hire Carla to do professional comic book covers too.
No kidding.
I had her. I'll show you later. I had her do some portraits of my children also before she did comic covers.
She does like this whole oil cover thing. It's unbelievable.
She's French. She's fine art. She's highly detailed, but great. Also, I have her working on covers now.
Do you really? Oh my god! I'm in danger.
So here's how I'm a geek, right? You said I'm always on Whatnot during those. So New York Comic Con, I don't even leave my booth during the show to go to the bathroom. I don't even leave.
Wow, and it's a long day.
Okay? I stream live on Whatnot the whole day. I host our signings. My staff runs the whole booth. So after New York Comic Con was over, the following like you're shot the week afterwards. Sure, you're shot. I saw Lucio and Carla were doing this fine art fantasy fest in Pennsylvania. Yeah. I'm going to go to this.
Wow.
Boris Vallejo was there, Julie Bell, some other really famous painters that I really admired. And I go and visit them, and they're like, what the hell are you doing here? You just saw us. I wanted to come see your art. Like, I didn't get to be a fan myself because I have to work so hard during New York Comic Con. And we just hit it off again. So amazing. They even were like, you want to go on Whatnot? I went on Whatnot. I sold so many of their original paintings and stuff, and they love it. And then the fans love it too, because I drove all the way to Pennsylvania and I'm live here, but they could sit home and they get to type their messages. Like people like, oh, show me that Carla Harley sketch. And, I'm flipping back with my phone and showing it. I'm like, she wants $800 for it.
Wow.
And they're bidding and buying. So... Wow. And that only comes after you earn their trust. Because I have so many items shipped and I have such a great feedback, that it comes back to reputation. And that's why you have to dedicate yourself to good shipping.
Yeah. And I mean, I've only done a handful of Whatnot shows, but I am appreciative of people buying my stuff that I, had, and I throw in a couple stickers or whatever. I give them, different things, for the podcast. And then, hey, check it out. Thank you so much. I often give them a little personalized note, like, thanks so much for, buying my thing.
And that brings us back to giveaways with Whatnot. I do giveaways. A lot of times I'll run 10 auctions and I'll do another giveaway.
Oh, wow.
10 more auctions, I'll do another giveaway.
Man.
And that's okay, because it brings people in who might buy.
Yeah.
I believe there are Reddit groups or, groups on the internet that track the giveaways on Whatnot.
I'm sure they are.
And I call them giveaway goblins, and they jump around. So, your room, it'll get more popular all of a sudden if you have a giveaway going.
Oh, I've seen
it just happens, and I embrace it. So, you can, and then they have options like buyer giveaways or different stuff like that. Or sometimes... Let's say I see an auction go for a higher price or something like that, and I feel like, oh, that person might have overpaid. I'll give them something else just right then live.
Oh, that's cool.
And there are times where I have books in a buy it now, but the auctions will get so feverish that someone will pay more than I have a book listed for in my store.
Wow.
And when I see that happens, and I learned this from my friend Comic Tom, you need to be excited for every purchase that happens during your Whatnot show.
And appreciate
even if it's a bad sale.
Yeah.
If it's a bad sale and I lost money, I shouldn't be like upset about it. I need to be happy that someone else got a deal.
Yeah.
That's important to remember.
And people like being shouted out on those things. Like, oh, thanks so-and-so for buying my thing, good grab, or whoever they, whatever it is. I find people find, they shouted me out. I appreciate that. It's kind of a cool feeling for
it's
people.
all about connections.
Yeah.
And just, I see the same people every single year, every single con you go to. It's all the same people.
So what Comic-Cons do you go to? Do you go a ton, or do you go to out of curiosity?
I go to a lot less nowadays than I used to.
Kids will do that to you.
So yeah, there are two that are really important, and that's MegaCon and New York Comic Con.
Right.
There's some other conventions that I love and wish I could go to. Shout out to Terrificon.
Terrificon's a nice con in Connecticut. Yeah,
that promoter Mitch Halleck up in the casino. I've had amazing Comic Cons there. I do like Rhode Island Comic Con. They get usually a fun collection of people, and that happens after New York, so that's good times. I don't really go to the West Coast for San Diego Comic Con and stuff like that. I don't really go for stuff like that. And, so those are my favorite ones. And the Hot Flips local shows, the next one's December 3rd. I'm going to be there.
I'll be there too.
So I can't wait for that.
That's cool. I mean, now you've got, stacks of books here and everything else. Like, what is the turnaround time when you make a sale on Whatnot or whatever? How fast do you have to get? Is it like next day?
A day or two max.
Wow.
That's it. Our policy is we don't really do more shows until it's shipped.
Right.
And that's something too where Amazon has spoiled customers where they're used to instant shipping. And there's a lot of other great dealers. For example, my friend Steve McDonald runs one of the biggest Facebook groups for comics out there. Well, he's kind enough to hold his customers' books to ship together so they can save on shipping. Yeah. That requires a tremendous level of organization
and
extra work. I don't do that. I go, nope, you buy it, we're shipping it now. You want more stuff, you buy it tomorrow, we'll ship it then too. That's it.
Wow, that's cool. I mean, so we've got a ton of like CGC books over here and everything. Like, what is how do you, now when you get custom books here, now do you first evaluate them yourselves and then say, okay, you know what, I'm going to take these 5 or 6 that are really, really good and I'll ship these out to CGC and have those graded? How does that work for you?
So I do love to pre-sell in CGC 9.8 our exclusives. So a lot of times we definitely have to screen copies to meet our website sales. And then a lot of exclusives like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, or maybe some of the books you see right here, these are the incentives.
Right.
So we'll pick the nice quality, high-level incentives and send those in and just get them graded because that appeals across the whole broad spectrum. Yeah. Maybe you didn't like our exclusive cover, but a lot of people want the 1 out of 500 Sean Gordon Murphy, like for TMNT one. They want that. And I get that because I have to publish 2,000 copies of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1. So,
wow, that's wild.
CGC is a great tool in protecting investments on like incentives and stuff like that.
Have you ever sent any that came back as like a 9.9?
A lot. Actually, really? I do feel that
like 9.9s are unicorns, and you rarely see
9.9s and 10s. They used to be. I feel they're a lot more frequent now.
Really?
Yeah, I believe over the past 2 years that CGC's grading standards have softened, actually. Okay. And you're seeing a lot more 9.9s and 10s than ever before.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've seen a handful of 10s in the last couple of years, and I'm just like, it's like, how did that? It's amazing.
But at the same time, if you're a smart consumer, there might be a lot of 9.6s out there of older books that are 9.9s now, or 9.8s at least.
Yeah.
You know, like think about great books like that, like First Appearance of Miles. Maybe that guy didn't press it or anything like that. You know, and it's a 9.6. Would it be a 9.8 today? You never know.
You never know. That's true. I mean, like I've got a handful of like unicorn covers that I've wanted to get. I see them on eBay. There's like I'm forgetting the number, but it's the Detective Comics, McFarlane cover with the cape and holding the girl.
423.
That is a unicorn for me. I would love to find that one.
And that's also very hard to get in 9.8. Now, their graders may have their standards with books like that. I would even take a 9.6 in that. Like, I'd be thrilled with that. Yeah. Like, maybe older books like that, they're like, no.
Yeah.
Like, okay, there was these issues with that book because they've graded so many. But a lot of new stuff, they give out a lot of 9.9s now and stuff like that.
There's another one that
I try to upgrade my customers for free.
Oh, really?
If you order 9.8, and sometimes I send out only enough books, and I just have 9.9s. I'm like, okay, you get a 9.9.
Oh, wow. That's wild. That's pretty cool.
It's nice.
It just looks weird when you see that 9.9. You're like, that just because you're so used
to. It's like a slightly different color.
It is. It's kind of funny. Another book that I guess it's an X-Men cover, but it's got Captain America, Black Widow, and Wolverine on the cover. I forget what number it is, 280 something, 286, something like that. I love that cover, and I wanted to find a high grade one of those. I've seen some 9.4s, 9.6s, and stuff like that. I saw a 9.6 that was signed by Stan Lee, and I bid on it, and then all of a sudden, like, it was on eBay, and then somebody sniped it at the end. It jumped from like 150 to like 250 in a half a second. How the hell did that happen? It's crazy.
There are some big time snipers on eBay. eBay still is a great resource too to sell books like that. There's guys that just hunt that and know that still.
I prefer Whatnot and eBay to like Facebook Marketplace stuff because you just can't.
I don't buy or sell on Facebook Marketplace. I'm not going to generate an invoice.
Yeah.
Unless you're like a dealer from like another shop and you like want to stock your store and you give me a whole list of stuff, I'll make an invoice for you then. But it's like, no, I'm not. During COVID, I did Facebook sales, and that's before I was doing any Whatnot anything, and I would have to spend a really long time invoicing everyone, waiting for them to pay.
Oh yeah.
So that's why I also love Whatnot in that regard. People have to instantly pay. Yeah. You have to instantly ship.
Now, with your exclusives for Carnivore Comics, do other shops want some of your exclusives to sell in their store? Really?
A lot.
Really?
Yeah. So I have some international customers. A lot of people in the UK. I have a store in Turkey that I deal with, some Australian stores.
Oh, no kidding.
And just in the US too, where sometimes I have friends who will make exclusives on the same books. And I'll be like, bro, we swapping 20 at least, or and that's great too, because then I can bring variety to my Whatnot channel and give a little more diversity during our shows.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I just did a big Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle trade with my friend Joel Jolzar Collectibles, and I got some great Raza TMNT covers that I love.
Really?
So it's just fun.
Recently, has there been an exclusive cover that somebody did for you that you were just like blown away by? They were just like, wow, I can't believe this is amazing, kind of thing.
Well, I got lucky where that happened with a few books during New York Comic Con. Especially, we did this Nort's Illustrated swimsuit project.
Which is like, people are going nuts over those things. Yeah.
Now that I got lucky with too, because one thing you deal with in the comic industry is the publisher's job not to overly sexualize women.
Right.
And, you don't want to make them objects, you don't want to be sexist. But the truth is, there's a lot of beautiful women in comics, and a lot of my customers are men aged 30 and up.
Yes.
Okay, so...
The target market is 30 to 45.
Yeah, so I'm not stupid.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, well, what could be a good special project? Because what I do with DC are special projects. And we'll hire like 7 or 8 artists, and they'll all do their own custom covers, and we'll print about, 8,000 total copies.
Right.
And, so it'll be a big, expensive project and a lot of different artists. So I've done a Lobo project recently. We did this Nort's Illustrated so we could do any characters. Yeah. I did Batman 181, Batman 121, which were like first Poison Ivy, first Mr. Freeze. So those are all different subjects. And then I go to like my core artists who can give me stuff that I love. Like I have like my own little Mount Rushmores of artists that I go to, and they all have their specialties and their strengths. And, you know, I will tell you right now, my favorite cover that blew me away recently. I'm just gonna show you.
Go ahead, yeah.
I'm just gonna grab it right here. So you hit the nail on the head. Here,
dude, this cover right here is phenomenal. It's a Harley Quinn cover, but like it's legit like a piece of art. It's amazing.
By the way, that's for you also. Okay.
Seriously?
Yeah. Oh, of course.
Oh my goodness.
So wow, Carla Cohen.
Wow, this is amazing.
Okay. And like she had so much fun signing these also. We did a whole whatnot show and she was like drawing tattoos on Harley.
Yeah.
And like guys are like, oh, give her this tattoo or what, or she just did like haha ones and just different stuff with paint pens. It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was really awesome. And you know, for me, it's so nice that after all this time now, I feel like a proud big brother because I'm watching Carla be so in demand.
Yeah. Oh my
And
goodness.
during New York Comic Con, she was only supposed to sign at my booth for 1 day for 2 hours.
And she was doing so many signings.
She came to my booth every single day.
Did she really?
Okay,
Wow.
every single day. And it was just awesome. I mean, Lucho too. Don't get me wrong. Lucho did 2 covers that are equally as impressive.
Wow.
Okay, but you know, he's been in the comic industry for a little longer. And you know, it's just nice to see Carla blow up. So this was so successful, and we're planning MegaCon right now. I went right back to the well. I said, I need 2 new covers from you, Lucio. Carla, I'd love 2 covers. And it gets tight because of their time.
Oh, yeah.
But they were totally on board.
That's awesome.
So they're going to do signings at our booth in MegaCon multiple days, and they do the signings together because they're husband and wife, which is so cool.
Which is so cool. And
so like I am amped about that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And they're doing great characters that they love, and it's just gonna be great.
Of recent very popular, especially cover artists, Carla and Stanley Lau Art Gem.
Oh yeah.
Like people go nuts over their covers, big time. And they always have
Art Gem's still on his own level.
Yes.
He's still on his own level. I told Carla I bet she's gonna be cover artist of the year 2025.
Really?
I told her that.
Dude, I wouldn't be surprised.
And I have an eye. I have a knack for like a lot of times artists will do stuff with like right now. When I first launched Carnivore, I was doing all kinds of covers with Ariel Diaz and John Jang. During that time, I watched them get their first covers with Marvel and DC Comics. Other retailers, they see me doing covers with artists, then they believe like, oh, okay, that's a great artist to believe in too. And then that artist. So Carla told me, she's like, Sean, you wouldn't believe how many retailers are trying to get me to do covers right now after this last Harley cover.
Absolutely.
So that's why I made sure, well, you better save some spots for me, okay? I need my spots
Put a friend
saved.
up here.
You have to.
Yeah.
It's all about that game.
Yeah.
So, and it's not an easy game to play. You have to keep your own secrets.
No, I mean, this might be a personal, like, do you have to commission them and then they get a residual on the book? Or how does that work?
The way it works a lot, an artist has their art fee.
Right.
Artists keep their original art.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Okay. What I'll try to negotiate at times is a right of first refusal.
Mm-hmm.
So I go, look, if you're going to sell this, give me the first shot to buy it before anyone else. And sometimes a lot of artists will give me discounts too because they know that this art wouldn't even exist if I didn't create the project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Very cool. I mean, there's so much depth to it and there's so much different things that go into the whole industry. And
I pay more than publishers do usually.
Oh, probably because you got to get exclusives and
typically
and limited print
publishers give them a lesser rate, but they do it for the prestige to work with those characters.
Right.
So, when you make exclusives, you're deciding, am I going to pay more money and make a DC or Marvel book, or I can pay a little less money and make like an independent book or a Boom or I love right now I'm able to make TMNT, Last Ronin, and Transformers books, and I love it.
Dude, Last Ronin is a monster of a book. People are obsessed with it. It was, people love it like you can't believe. And there's this new resurgence with Transformers. Now there's like G.I. Joe covers coming out and all kinds of,
right.
Like
the whole Energon universe, the fact that Robert Kirkman took his Walking Dead money. It was in like a poker game. He in like comics. He's like, I'm all in.
Yeah.
And he bought the rights for IDW. So IDW used to have Transformers. Yeah. I have a Gabriel Delato cover.
Do you really?
That I waited for the whole time. Transformers was with IDW, and I could not publish this cover, and I had to wait all that time. All that time. I'm going to show you the foil version of it.
I've seen this one.
Yeah, because they actually connect.
Do they really?
I mean, yeah. So, like, you know what I was going to see if I have one of my good bags and boards. Okay, yeah. Oh, that's up. Sorry about that. So, anyways, yeah, I'll just show you this guy. So, here, I'll pass these two to you.
Oh, boy.
1, 2.
Wow.
So, they connect together.
Yeah, look at that.
Okay.
Oh, that's sick. I love that. That's
yeah,
very, very cool.
it's a face-off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow, that's so cool. I mean, dude, I feel like, you know.
Now that's just colored pencil on black paper.
Is it really?
It's not digital.
Wow. Yeah, man, but the detail.
I have the art inside.
Do you really?
Yeah, so I waited for years, and then Robert Kirkman pulls this off. They have all these rules for issue 1.
Do they really?
And it was hard to even get an exclusive on issue 1.
No kidding.
So I ended up being able to pull that off by like issue 8.
No kidding.
And then I pulled it off again to make the foil for New York. So there's a Virgin edition, and Virgin means that there's no text on it.
There's no text on it, yeah.
Yeah, but I did want it to say transform. Like I wanted a text version.
I like the text. You know, sometimes it's nice to have the brand.
Yeah, or does it take? But that's also a little darker.
Yeah,
it right? Is a little bit darker. I figure why not? Now's a perfect time to illustrate that point to the people. So, you know, here.
Oh, yeah, look at the difference.
Show them those ones. And that's what I mean. Like, you can appreciate the artwork more in a non-foil format.
Yeah.
So, yeah, foils are nice and shiny, but I don't know. Which one do you like more?
You know, it depends. If I'm going to display, I'll display the foil just because of the fact that it's, it's a foil.
Yeah, if it's out of the bag and board maybe and it's framed nice.
But, like, what's kind of, like the look of Optimus on the non-foil cover really, really pops, especially on a black background. It looks really cool. Wow. I mean, to put these two side by side like that, man, it is beautiful. And I feel like, Transformers right now, even more so since the movies have kind of fizzled out, in comics, they've had another resurgence of popularity. People and
Daniel Warren Johnson, man.
And the new movie, the Transformers 1 animated movie.
I loved it. My kids loved it.
It was fantastic. And I think it's sparked a new life for the characters, and you could do so much with it. And especially in comic world, like you could tell any story you want. Like the sky's the limit, which is amazing.
There's a lot of possibility in Transformers.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, kids, 8 and 10-year-old kids, and my kids' friends, they're impressed by Transformers. Yeah. The new action figures, I love all the action figures too.
Yeah, they're fantastic.
I mean, I spend too much money on them, to be honest.
Tell me
it's
about
bad.
it.
And then, like, I just watch my kids just
destroy them,
take them and break them.
I have, I'm a big collector. I have a lot of hot toys. I've got, a lot of McFarlane figures. I've got a lot of Lego collection. And my daughters know these are the ones you don't touch of Dad's toys.
Oh yeah,
they've and like their friends go, ooh, I'm like, no, you can't touch Dad's stuff.
Yeah,
it's pretty good. It's funny. Wow, there's so many things. It's like, but it's really, really nice that you have this, family-owned business that people gravitate to you, both on Whatnot, creatives, artists, and you've built this, reputation over the last, let's say, 15 or 18 years that people want to work with you. And I love that. And, it's this command center of comics is like, a nerd like me's like magical dream. Like, look at this stuff. It's just such really cool, beautiful content. And you should really be proud of what you built here. It's really, really nice.
I really appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
And I guess, one thing I would expand on that is there are things that I am a little disappointed with, and it really is, you could go in different ways in this industry.
Yeah.
Okay. There are a lot of guys who make exclusives and their stores are way bigger than mine. And I find myself very often looking at those stores with admiration, respect, and jealousy. But if you have a huge store and huge overhead, sometimes you're forced to do things.
Right.
Where I'm very fortunate is that because Carnivore is a family business, we don't have to do things.
Right.
We do the things that we want to do.
Right.
MegaCon is amazing. New York, it's our local show. It's amazing. I don't go to San Diego in July because I'm at travel baseball for Little League.
Right.
I'm not
and
I'm not
cost
doing
to
that.
ship, how many books you have to bring to a New York Comic Con to sell? Like you have to bring hundreds of books, I assume.
Yeah. Short, it's like 60 short boxes.
Yeah.
You have to pack them, get them there. Get the books. All the books are sales to people.
And the cost of just getting a booth at San Diego Comic-Con, plus the shipping of all the materials and the hotel and the whole... you could spend, $15,000 before you've made $1.
Easily,
without batting an eye. And, that's... You got to be realistic of what is capable of. And, one of the things I preach to my students and everything is, you need to have a work-life balance, right? You have a family. You want to be able to go to the Little League game and not be... gearing up for 2 weeks prior to go to San Diego Comic-Con to hope you make the money back of what, you just spent.
What's nice to say is if I did not have little kids, I would love being at more Comic-Cons because those people there are my other family.
Yeah. Oh,
sure. Okay. So, one of the coolest things is when I'm walking with my son in a Comic-Con, and I know a lot of people have been going because I would go to so many shows.
Right.
And be there with Stanley and meet people from all over. And, my son was like, wow, Dad, everybody here. Because they just see me home all the time.
Yeah, right. They just
I'm here.
Dad.
They don't realize that I know, all of these people at the show. So, that's nice. And I'd like to be out and on more shows.
That's cool. Now, you've met and worked with so many famous artists, like you said, Stan Lee and John Romita Sr. Did anybody ever make you feel starstruck when you're like, wow, I'm sitting here doing a signing with this person and feel like
Stanley.
Yeah.
Stan.
Yeah.
Always still.
Really?
Yeah. Definitely.
I remember I met Chris Claremont once.
No, he is cool. Chris Claremont and Chris Claremont has done private signings with me in my partner's restaurant.
No kidding.
With John Romita Jr. as well.
Wow.
At the same time and stuff. So, I've set him up as a private guest for my friend's store at a show and hung out with him all weekend. So Chris Claremont is super cool.
Wow.
Him and his wife Beth are great people.
Wow, that's awesome.
And talk about a creator who really loves the fans and will spend the time with each one.
When you go to New York Comic-Con, he's always got a line and he's just chatting with people, talking about comics and whatever. And it's almost magical to watch. You're just sitting here you're talking to your
I'll
hero.
tell you, one of my best friends is a CGC. He'll still help CGC now as a witness.
Mm-hmm.
And because he's one of their best ones, they put him with Chris Claremont.
Do they really? Because they can move him along?
Now, when you're with another creator who takes lots of breaks or something, your day as a CGC witness is a lot nicer.
Yeah.
But because Chris Claremont's there talking all day long, the line never ends. You're never done witnessing.
Yeah,
so he would always be like, hours. I'm assigned to Claremont again. Gonna be there all day. So
that's so funny. Yeah. I've seen the people. They're like, oh, he's talking. Chris, you got about, you got 400 people online and you've been talking to this guy for 5 minutes. What are you doing here? It's pretty funny, but he likes to talk about comics. And I caught him one time a few years ago where no one was there. And I'm just like, there's no one talking to Chris. And I chatted with him for 5-10 minutes just talking about comics and, just memories that I had as a kid. And he was like, oh, I love that, yada, yada, yada. And I didn't even have, I was so stupid. I didn't have anything for him to sign, but I just wanted to talk to him and just be in that energy and be around him, which was wild.
You know who I regret not being more starstruck and appreciative around was my friend Neal Adams. And, rest in peace to him. And,
I have his omnibus, his Batman omnibus.
I think he was taken from us too soon.
Way too soon.
And
he was my hero. Like, I loved him. Him and Denny O'Neil were like icons to me as a Batman fan growing up.
I have Denny O'Neil's book, How to Write Comics.
Do you really?
And I read that a lot. I'm trying to write my own comic, of course.
Good for you.
But
I went to grad school for creative writing and film, and I did one of my papers I wrote a graphic novel. I can't draw a straight line with a ruler, but I love to write, and I've loved to someday do a Kickstarter campaign to try to get that story made through my other podcast. One of the hosts has a comic called Armored, and we did because it's so much revolving around Wizard magazine. We did a half issue of Armored that's going to go on Kickstarter next week. And
cool! Congratulations!
Thanks. Yeah, it's kind of cool, and it's been a year-long process to get a half issue made, but it's a lot of work, and we hope people like it and kind of excited about that, and it's kind of neat.
It definitely makes you respect comic creators,
dude. I've got a buddy who he's a writer, and he wrote a children's comic book, and it's going on 2-3 years of just waiting for the art and residuals and all that kind of stuff before they can even go to print and everything. Just so much back and forth and emailing of PDFs or JPEGs of images and stuff like that just to get the art right and the story. It's wild. I
have a great story about Dan Slott.
Oh, please.
Okay, so so cool. We would always have so many Spider-Man books and stuff for him.
So many Spider-Man books.
And he lives right in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And he would be like, all right, guys, just come over to my apartment and we'll sign them there. Okay? It's so fun. But it was amazing because he was such a creative genius. Mm-hmm. And he had just a whiteboard. And as he'd be signing, we would watch him in his creative writing process.
Wow.
And it was intense. You want to talk about, controlled chaos genius. Yeah. That's what I witnessed. And it's I don't have that, but I could try to make one story.
Dude, Sean, I could talk to you all day long. This was incredible. Thank you so much for being on the show. How can people find you and follow your shows and everything else?
Oh, great. So you can find us at www.carnivorecomics.com, Instagram, carnivore_comics, or whatnot. We're on there as Carnivore Comics. So give us a follow or visit the website, sign up for the newsletter. Mm-hmm. We only send a newsletter if there's a discount code or a brand new exclusive and we want to show off the art.
That's awesome, dude. Again, thank you so much. This was incredible. So for everybody at home, thank you so much for tuning in and listening. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at SYWBAG, that's Switbag. And you can go to our TeePublic store, get some merch, got some nice shirts, got some new stuff coming out next week. We're going to have hoodies. There's a deal right now. You can get 35% off, which is really, really fantastic. And on top of that, we've got hats, I've got stickers and all kinds of different merch. And you can follow us or subscribe to our podcast on all your favorite podcasting platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and our YouTube channel. So you want to be a geek. And until next time, everybody, stay geeky. Bye for now. Thanks so much. I'd like to thank my guest, Sean McLoughlin of Carnivore Comics, for hosting us today and spending some time with us and chatting about comics. You want to check them out? They're going to be at MegaCon in Orlando real soon. Or if you're in the New York area, come to Babylon to the American Legion Hall for the next upcoming Hot Flips show, which I think is on January 5th, which is a Sunday. They usually do the first Sunday of every month. You come check them out and see some great merch and meet Sean and his family and support a really fantastic company. Stay tuned because we have another episode coming up in just 2 weeks. Thanks for tuning into this episode of So You Want to Be a Geek. We'd like to thank the Geekster Media Network. I'm Michael Canetti. I'm your host, producer, and editor. We hope you enjoyed the journey into geekdom as much as we did. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Switbag for updates, behind-the-scenes content, and more geeky goodness. Have a topic you'd like us to discuss or a guest you'd like to hear from? Let us know. So you want to be a geek at gmail.com and stay up to date and join the conversation. Until next time, keep embracing that inner geek and remember, the adventure never ends.
This has been a Geekster Media production.
This episode of So You Want to Be a Geek is brought to you by Comics Capsules. These are a great product for protecting your comics. They are UV resistant, crystal clear, they are stackable, they fit in your regular long and short boxes. They fully encapsulate your comics with a flip top hinge that allows you to access your comics anytime you want. They'll even fit with the bag and board in the sleeve. It is really, really cool. They have this great little eye hook. I have some hanging up back there. I have some over there on display. Because sometimes you just want to display your cool comics without having to send them out to CGC and waiting and spending a fortune on getting them graded. This stuff works great. I really, really love them. You can even have like a dedicated label inside of them. They're super awesome. So our sponsor for this episode of So You Want to Be a Geek is Comics Capsule. Do you like hot sauce? I know I do. Well, one of our sponsors for this week's episode is Jablo Hot Sauce. They are a family-owned, locally produced, amazing Filipino hot sauce that was recently featured on Hot Ones. You're gonna love it. You can put it on everything from hummus to meats to vegetables, whatever you think of. They are a great company, family owned and locally produced Filipino hot sauce. If you want to find out where the punch is, check out Jablo Hot Sauce.